Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson filling in for Steve. Falling Skies, the TNT series sci-fi thriller, launched 2 years ago and now has a legion of fans. The premiere of the third season is this Sunday, a 2-hour premiere. Check this out.
2 years ago on this day, our lives changed forever.
Cover! We're collaborating with the enemy.
Cover! General!
Watch your back.
Pretty exciting stuff. Joining us by phone is the star of the series, plays Tom Mason, Noah Wyle. You also remember Noah for his hit role as the young John Carter in the hit series ER. Noah, welcome. Thanks so much for calling in.
Entirely my pleasure, David.
Noah, congratulations on the series. It's been a pretty exciting 2 years, but the final episode of the second season, you really left us hanging. You know, you came out of an epic battle. You somehow managed to survive. Anne is pregnant, and there seems to be some concern there. And then another alien spacecraft lands. I don't know how you're going to deal with all of this. Can you give us a peek into Sunday?
We tend to write ourselves into a pretty good corner at the end of our year. And then we spend the summer scratching our heads and trying to figure out how to get ourselves out of it. And we managed to. Season 3 starts off with a bang, and we threw a lot up on the screen very early on, and it's sort of like a big ball of yarn that will unravel as the season progresses. But in a nutshell, we start off 7 months later. This new alien race that we saw descend from the heavens seem to be our new allies, and they bring a technology that's far superior to anything that we have, and we seem to be winning this war for the first time. The question remains, can these new aliens be trusted, or are we potentially throwing off the yoke of one oppressor for the yoke of another? Anne is pregnant. She's going to deliver in the first episode, and as beautiful as the baby is, there's something kind of special about her that we will see. My son Hal's got this eye worm that's making him...
Yeah, that was pretty frightening.
Yeah, and I've been the newly elected President of the United States. So a lot's changed since we left these characters 7 months ago. And it's, I think, our best season yet. You know, the first season, I think we had a really good concept, and we didn't know quite how to execute it. Second season, we learned a lot of lessons from the first, and I thought I had a really solid year. And this year, we had the confidence of the network and the studio behind us, and we had a little bit more money to play with. And having already firmly established who these people are and what this world is, we got to branch out in a lot of really interesting ways with our narrative.
It's been pretty exciting, but you said in a recent interview, and I wanted to bring this up, you said that you were worried that perhaps the series had bit off more than it could chew, that there were so many subplots. You were a little concerned that maybe your fans would not be able to digest it all. Do you still feel that way?
Well, proof's in the pudding always, you know, and I needed to see these things come together to really feel as confident about them as I do. But yeah, I had some trepidation at first, only because we started with a very simple concept. History professor, father of 3, you know, alien invasion. He's trying to keep his family alive in the context of this new world. And then in very short order, in fact, in 30 short episodes, we'd taken this guy and turned him into the President of the United States with 3 children. 2 of them have alien technology in their bodies. And I thought, you know, what is keeping this show anchored is the fact that we keep it grounded in some semblance of truth. You know, we're trying to say this is what could happen possibly. And the farther out we take our narrative, the more it seems to stray in that line of credibility. But for some reason, it worked. It works really well, and it was an abject lesson to me to put more faith in our writing staff than I did, and it wasn't without peril. I mean, we really had to be vigilant. We had to be very diligent about paying attention to detail and making sure that each of these storylines had arc and was going to peak at the right point during the course of the season to be really satisfying television.
No, I come from the world of business and finance, but I also had a role in rock and roll. So I understand that, costs and art, and sometimes you can't pay for everything that you want, and you have to be conscious of costs. I did notice that most of the series, if not all of the series, is filmed in Canada. And, here in the States, the job market's been pretty tough, and I'm wondering what went behind the decision to move it up there?
Purely economic.
It was the economics.
Yeah, it's one of my great laments because I live and work in, I live in Los Angeles, I'm from Los Angeles, and I haven't worked in Los Angeles in about 10 years. Canada offers a 33% tax credit for film production, as do a lot of other states in the U.S., which has caused a lot of money to leave the cash-strapped state of California inexplicably. Someone described, I couldn't really get a good answer on why California hasn't been able to pass similar legislation.
You would think that California would want to do something like this. I mean, they're Hollywood.
Well, we had a governor that was an actor for a long time. I thought that would be a shoo-in. But apparently we have two other industries that predate the movie business or rival it in terms of economics. One is our aerospace industry, and the other is our agriculture. And if we start offering tax credits for one, it's a slippery slope to the others, and that was what was the impediment. Yeah.
The lines seem to have been blurred between TV production and movie production. I look at your series, and I feel like I'm watching a summer blockbuster. And I got to believe, do you have the same budgets that the movies do? How do you pull it off?
Well, it's tricky. We have a certain amount of money allocated to our special effects budget. And if we can coast for a couple episodes focusing on interpersonal conflict that's more human to human and save that war chest up, then every 3 or 4 episodes we can do something very dramatic. We shoot on a budget that's comparable to a lot of other shows on television, maybe a little bit more. But we tend to be very resourceful in the way that we use it. The biggest cost in digital effects is the initial renderings, the design of the alien, the design of the spaceship. Once you've locked that into the computer, it costs a lot less to employ it subsequent times. But it's still very expensive. So you have to pick and choose how you want to do it.
The aliens are just so dramatic. I was wondering, as an actor, the world has really changed in the last 20 years, and so much of what we see in movies and on TV is computer generated. For you as an artist, I got to imagine that very often you are in front of nobody when you're acting. How difficult is that?
Well, it's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better off you get, But initially you feel really silly, acting terrified of a tennis ball on the end of a stick. But then when they put the graphics in, it looks terrific. So after a while, you start to gain more and more confidence that you're not going to be made to look like a fool. And a lot of what an actor does is using their imagination. I spent a lot of time auditioning in an office building and having to create a whole world around me in order to try to get a job. When I'm on stage, that fourth wall doesn't really exist, and you kind of have to make that up too. So it's not totally foreign to an actor's life, but it's something that we all have to get more and more comfortable with because it does seem to be the sign of the times and the future.
It's got to be very different, working all by yourself, and you realize you're talking to a computer-generated animation as opposed to working within an ensemble like you did with ER for so many years. One of the comments you made in an interview was that it was such a well-oiled machine. Yeah,
truly. Well, it didn't start that way, but by the end of the run, we had that show running like clockwork. Granted, that's a show that was fairly contained, even though we did go to Africa and we did go to Paris and we did go to Chicago for filming exteriors. For the most part, that was a show that was anchored in Stage 11 on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. And this show is very different. There's a lot of other variables in play, probably the biggest of which is we've chosen to shoot in Canada during winter, mostly outside in inclement weather. So
in winter?
Yeah.
No snow on the ground?
Well, Vancouver tends to get flurries, but doesn't really stick. But it is wet. It starts raining about September and doesn't stop till about March.
I've been there.
So I wring out my undergarments every night as I go home. But it adds a texture and kind of a patina to the show that I think is really really important.
You know, Noah, we've only got a minute left. You've got a lot of fans out there that have followed you through your various roles throughout your career. And now you've got legions of fans that are following you in this series and fans of the series. Have you got anything you'd like to say to them?
Just my everlasting gratitude. You know, it's one of the few art forms where you need permission to ply your trade. You know, musicians can make music, and artists can paint pictures, and sculptors can sculpt, but I need someone to hire me in order to work, and in order to be hireable, you have to have a following and an audience out there, and I've been really, really fortunate in my life and career to have worked consistently, and I owe everything to the people that tune in and buy the tickets.
Noah, thanks so much for being with us. That was well said. Thank you.
My pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
We've been talking with Noah Wyle.